We are counting down the 11 game consoles that defined the 1980s. Each one is a milestone in how people played, collected, and competed at home. From joystick-driven classics and breakthrough graphics to the console wars and the crash that almost killed home gaming, these systems shaped decades of pop culture and technology. Let us start the countdown with number 11. 11. Atari 2600. Released in 1977 but dominant in the early 1980s. The Atari 2600 built a massive library of arcade ports and original titles. It became a cultural symbol of pre-crash gaming, and its market oversaturation helped trigger the 1983 video game crash. Today it is historically essential and highly collectible for its simplicity and iconic games. 10. Intellivision. Introduced by Mattel in 1980. Known for superior graphics and sound compared to Atari 2600, it used a keyboard-style controller with number pad overlays. It innovated with early sports titles and more complex gameplay. Intellivision represents the first higher-end competitor in home gaming, and collectors prize its unique controllers and early cartridges. ColecoVision, released in 1982, was famous for near-arcade quality graphics for its time. Strong arcade ports included Donkey Kong. Expansion modules even added Atari 2600 compatibility. ColecoVision represents peak pre-crash hardware power and remains prized for its arcade-style performance and rarity. 8. Atari 5200. Launched in 1982 as a high-end upgrade from the 2600. It featured analog joysticks that were innovative but often failure-prone. Technically, it offered better graphics but struggled because it was not compatible with the 2600 library. The proliferation of competing formats like this one contributed to market confusion and the 1983 crash. As a collector item, it tells the story of ambition and fragmentation. 7. Sega SG-1000 launched in Japan the same day as Nintendo's Famicom in 1983. It was an important stepping stone in Sega's hardware history. The library was limited, but it helped establish Sega as a console maker. Its role is best seen as Japan's parallel early 80s evolution, and collectors value it for historical significance. 6. Nintendo Famicom, released in Japan in 1983, is the Japanese origin of the Nintendo Entertainment System. Key features included programmable cartridges, improved sprites and audio, and smooth scrolling. The Famicom had early issues with faulty random access memory chips, which Nintendo fixed with revised hardware and quality control. The system laid the foundation for the global revival of video games and is celebrated for its technical breakthroughs and lasting cultural footprint. Nintendo Entertainment System, launched in North America in 1985, rebooted the video game industry after the crash. The Game Pack lockout system, called 10NES, restored consumer trust. Platform-defining titles included Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and Duck Hunt. The gray box became the dominant home console of the late 80s worldwide. Collectors seek early cartridges, original packaging, and the tactile experience of top loaders and front loaders. And many fans still remember blowing in slots and connecting RF switches. 4. Atari 7800, released in 1986, offered backwards compatibility with the 2600, which was a huge selling point. It had strong arcade conversions such as Asteroids, Pole Position 2, and Food Fight. The console represents Atari's attempt to recover after the crash, but market success was limited by Nintendo Entertainment System dominance. Today it is valued by collectors for its library and compatibility. 3. Sega Master System, released in Japan in 1985 and in the US in 1986, was known for bright graphics and sharp audio courtesy of a Yamaha sound chip. Notable games included Alex Kidd, Shinobi, and Phantasy Star. Technically, it outperformed the Nintendo Entertainment System, but it lost market share in North America and became a massive success in Europe, Brazil, and Australia. Its design and marketing show how regional differences shaped console fortunes. 2. NEC PC Engine TurboGrafx 16, introduced in Japan in 1987 and in the United States in 1989, was the first console marketed as 16-bit. Even though it used an 8-bit central processing unit with a 16-bit graphics processor. It pioneered the hue card format and an early CD-ROM ad on in 1988. Platform highlights included Bonk's Adventure and R-Type, offering near arcade quality. The system represented the cutting edge at the end of the decade and is collected for its unique media and early CD experiments. 1. Sega Genesis Mega Drive. Released in Japan in 1988 and in the United States in 1989, used a true 16-bit Motorola 68000 central processing unit that delivered arcade-like performance. Early hits like Altered Beast and Golden Axe leveraged Sega's arcade heritage and helped lay the groundwork for the console wars of the 1990s. The Genesis defines the transition into next-generation hardware and remains highly collectible for its cartridges, marketing, and impact. Now a brief recap of the essential themes that defined the era. The 1983 video game crash was caused by market oversaturation, shovelware, and retailer collapse. Too many competing formats and low-quality titles reduced consumer confidence. Systems such as ColecoVision and Atari 5200 were affected by that oversaturation. Nintendo revived the market with strict quality control and hardware measures that restored trust. Regional differences mattered. Japan's Famicom preceded the North American Nintendo Entertainment System launch. The Master System dominated Europe and Brazil, while remaining a niche in the United States. The PC Engine was successful in Japan but stayed niche in the West. Hardware evolved from 8-bit systems to hybrid designs, and then to true 16-bit machines. Advancements included smoother scrolling on the Nintendo Entertainment System and Master System, improved sound chips from programmable sound generators to frequency modulation and wavetable techniques, and cartridge mappers that expanded capabilities. Controller design moved from joysticks and number pads to precision gamepads and the directional pad popularized by Nintendo, while early analog experiments appeared in systems like Atari 5200. Game libraries produced platform-defining titles, arcade ports that were technical leaps, and the explosion of genres including platformers, shooters, beat-em-ups, and role-playing games. Aesthetics shifted from VCR-look consoles in the early 80s to bright and angular Japanese designs later in the decade, and packaging, manuals, and marketing reflected regional tastes. Why are these consoles remembered? Each entry carries a cultural footprint, clear technical significance, and meaningful collector value today. They represent moments in gaming history, from the infancy of home arcade ports to the revival led by Nintendo and the transition into next-generation hardware. The tactile experiences remain vivid. They are the smell of cartridges, the click of connectors, the ritual of blowing into slots, and the satisfying feel of plugging in a new game pack. That completes our countdown of the 11 consoles that shaped the 1980s. Which one did you have? In 1977, the Atari 2600 arrived in American homes and changed the meaning of playtime forever. Its sleek wood-paneled design and chunky joystick became as familiar as the TV it plugged into. For millions of families, the ritual was simple. Slide in a cartridge, flick the switches, and hope that a quick blow into the slot would bring the game to life. The console's library exploded to hundreds of titles. Arcade hits like Space Invaders and Asteroids alongside original games and, eventually, infamous flops. By 1982, it sat in more than 10 million households, the centerpiece of birthday parties and late-night competitions. But the same openness that made its library so vast also led to trouble. Flooded with rushed, low-quality releases, most notoriously E.T., the market buckled under its own weight, fueling the 1983 video game crash that nearly wiped out home gaming. Today, boxed Atari 2600 systems and rare cartridges remain prized by collectors, symbols of both a golden age and a cautionary tale in video game history. Mattel's Intellivision arrived in 1980, promising a leap forward for families ready to move beyond blocky graphics and simple sounds. Its name stood for Intelligent Television, and for the time that was not just hype. The console's 16-color visuals and richer audio set it apart from anything Atari offered. But what truly made Intellivision stand out sat in your hands, a flat, gold-faced controller with a circular disc and a number pad. Each game came with a thin plastic overlay, sliding right over the buttons and transforming the pad into a football playbook, a space battle console, or a baseball manager's bench. This allowed for more complex sports simulations and strategy games. Titles like Major League Baseball and NFL football gave players a sense of control that felt new and exciting. While Intellivision never matched Atari's sales, it carved out a loyal following and set the bar for what home gaming could be. Today, finding a complete set with overlays is a collector's dream, a reminder of the era's first real taste of premium play. ColecoVision landed in 1982, offering a leap in home gaming power just as the arcade craze hit its peak. Inside, a Zilog Z80 processor delivered graphics and sound that came closer to arcade cabinets than any console before it. The standout moment for many was firing up ColecoVision's bundled Donkey Kong. The sprites and colors looked shockingly close to what kids saw at the local pizza parlor. ColecoVision was not just about arcade ports. It introduced a new idea: expansion modules. The most famous, expansion module number 1. Let players slide in their old Atari 2600 cartridges, opening a massive back catalog and blurring the lines between competing systems. This bold move triggered legal battles, and it also set a precedent for hardware add-ons in the industry. Heavy controllers and a modular design gave ColecoVision a distinct, tech-forward feel, almost like a home computer. Today, collectors hunt for boxed Donkey Kong sets and original expansion modules, reminders of a moment when home consoles briefly matched arcade ambition before the market lost its footing. Atari's answer to rising competition was the 5200, launched in 1982 as a premium upgrade that promised a new level of sophistication. The system's analog joystick was its boldest feature. Instead of a simple on-off switch, the stick offered full range movement, and it hinted at arcade precision. But the reality was less impressive. Inside, a fragile rubber boot and unreliable contacts led to constant complaints. Joysticks that drifted, stuck, or just stopped working altogether. For many, the 5200's controller became a source of frustration rather than fun. The problems did not end there. Unlike ColecoVision's embrace of backward compatibility, the 5200 could not play Atari 2600 games without a bulky add-on. Its unique, oversized cartridges and incompatible hardware split Atari's own audience, leaving families confused at the store and disappointed at home. Internal memos from Atari's design team warned of these risks, but the push for innovation overruled caution. As the market spiraled into chaos, the 5200's format confusion and hardware failures became a textbook example of how technical ambition, without regard for compatibility, can deepen a crisis. Today, the 5200 is remembered as a collector's curiosity, a system that aimed high but stumbled when it mattered most. On July 15, 1983, Sega entered the home console race with the SG-1000, launching it in Japan on the exact same day as Nintendo's Famicom. While the Famicom would go on to dominate headlines, the SG-1000 played a quieter but essential role in shaping Sega's identity as a hardware maker. Powered by a Zilog Z80 processor, the SG-1000 offered modest graphics and a limited game library, mostly simple arcade-style ports and early experiments in home gaming. Its cartridges slotted into a compact, unadorned case, a far cry from the flashier designs that would define Sega's later years. Sales were modest and never approached Famicom's runaway numbers, and the system remained largely unknown outside Japan. Yet inside Sega, the SG-1000 became a proving ground for engineers and designers, setting the foundation for the Master System and the company's future console ambitions. Today, the SG-1000 is a rare collector's piece in the West, valued not for its library, but for its place at the very start of Sega's journey into the living room. Its debut captured a moment when Japan's gaming landscape was expanding in parallel to the turmoil unfolding in the American market, hinting at the global shifts just ahead. The Nintendo Famicom arrived in Japanese stores on July 15, 1983, its bold red and white shell promising a new era for family entertainment. Inside it was more than just a toy. Programmable cartridges, smooth-scrolling graphics, and richer sound marked a leap beyond the blocky, static worlds of earlier systems. But within weeks of launch, a hidden flaw surfaced. Faulty RAM chips supplied by Mitsubishi caused games to freeze or fail, with nearly 400,000 units affected. Complaints poured in. Instead of hiding the problem, Nintendo's lead engineer Masayuki Uemura organized a nationwide recall, publicly apologizing and arranging repairs through retailers and direct mail. The company swapped out defective chips and revised the Famicom's motherboard, tightening quality control for every future unit. This crisis, handled with rare transparency and speed, restored faith in the brand and reassured anxious developers. By the end of 1984, Famicom sales had rebounded, quickly outpacing rivals. The tactile experience of sliding a cartridge into the sloped front slot, flipping the power switch, and hearing the cheerful startup jingle became a ritual for millions. Early models and recall-corrected boards are now prized by collectors, tangible proof of the disciplined engineering that set Nintendo apart and laid the foundation for gaming's global revival. By the fall of 1985, the video game aisle was a graveyard. Then a gray, boxy machine called the Nintendo Entertainment System arrived in American stores. Nintendo's approach was radical. Every Nintendo cartridge contained a special chip called 10NES Lockout, which blocked unlicensed games and guaranteed only approved titles would play. This technology, paired with the gold seal of quality stamped on every box, convinced wary retailers to give video games another chance. The Nintendo Entertainment System did not just restore trust, it redefined home gaming. Instead of a simple joystick, players held a rectangular controller with the now iconic D-pad. The bundled Zapper light gun brought arcade-style shooting into the living room, while the front-loading cartridge slot echoed the video cassette recorders of the era. Games changed everything. Super Mario Bros. Set the standard for platformers. The Legend of Zelda introduced sprawling adventure. Metroid blended exploration with action. Duck Hunt made the Zapper a household staple. Each title showed what was possible when hardware and software worked together under strict quality control. By the end of the decade, the Nintendo Entertainment System had sold over 60 million units worldwide, cementing its place as the console that pulled gaming back from the brink and launched genres that still define the industry. Early front-loader systems and complete launch bundles remain some of the most sought-after prizes in retro collecting, reminders of the moment when video games earned back their place in the home. Atari's 7800 arrived in 1986, offering something the company's earlier consoles could not: a bridge between generations. Its backward compatibility meant families with a stack of old 2600 cartridges could play them without adapters. No headaches required. But this was not just a nostalgia machine. Inside, the 7800 packed upgraded hardware capable of delivering sharper, more colorful versions of arcade favorites. Launch titles like Asteroids, Pole Position 2, and Food Fight brought the arcade experience home with a level of faithfulness earlier systems struggled to match. The controller was oval and simple, keeping the focus on the games themselves. Yet the timing was tough. By the time the 7800 hit store shelves, Nintendo Entertainment System, the NES, had already won over retailers and kids alike. New releases were few, and its marketing muscle never matched the competition. Today, collectors value the system for its compatibility, and for those handful of standout arcade ports, a reminder of Atari's effort to reclaim lost ground by honoring its past while the industry looked ahead to new players and new ideas. Number 3. The Sega Master System arrived in Japanese stores in 1985 and reached the United States in 1986, bringing a bold new look and sound to home gaming. Its hardware packed a technical punch that stood out in the 8-bit era: a vibrant color palette, sharp graphics, and most memorably, a Yamaha sound chip that delivered rich FM-style audio far beyond the beeps and buzzes of its rivals. Games like Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Shinobi, and Phantasy Star were not just visually striking, they sounded alive with melodies and effects that stuck in players' heads long after the television powered off. The Master System featured a card slot alongside a standard cartridge port, letting owners slip in thin Sega cards for quick loading titles, a tactile detail that set it apart from the chunky cartridges of the competition. While the Master System struggled to break through in the United States, where the Nintendo Entertainment System dominated toy aisles and living rooms, its story was dramatically different overseas. In Europe, the Master System became the console of choice, outselling Nintendo hardware thanks to strong partnerships with distributors like Virgin Mastertronic and a steady stream of locally tailored releases. Nowhere was its impact deeper than in Brazil, where Tectoy began manufacturing the system domestically in 1989. Tectoy's Master System was not just a game console, it became a cultural phenomenon, with localized games, television advertising, and even original titles created for Brazilian fans. Over 13 million Master Systems were sold worldwide, with a huge share coming from Europe and South America. Today, collectors chase rare variants and Tectoy exclusives, drawn to the system's bright visuals, unique sound, and the global patchwork of memories it created for a generation of players. The Master System represents a moment when technical ambition, distinctive design, and regional partnerships produced a very different console landscape outside the United States. In 1987, Japanese gamers got their hands on something that looked and felt like it came from the future: the NEC PC Engine. Half the size of its rivals, this console ditched bulky cartridges for ultra-thin hue cards, credit card-sized game chips that slid into a slot with a satisfying click. The PC Engine's secret weapon was its hybrid architecture, an 8-bit CPU running at 7.16 MHz, paired with a 16-bit graphics processor capable of splashing 482 colors on screen at once. This technical leap let arcade ports like R-Type shine with crisp sprites and smooth scrolling, setting a new standard for home visuals in the late 80s. In 1988, NEC released the world's first CD-ROM add-on for a game console. Suddenly, developers had room for richer music, animated cutscenes, and sprawling worlds years before Sega or Nintendo would follow. Games like Bonk's Adventure, with its big-headed caveman mascot, and the CD-powered Wise Book 1 and 2, showed what was possible when storage limits vanished. In Japan, the PC Engine became a household name, outselling even Sega's hardware and earning a loyal fan base. By the time it reached the US in 1989 as the TurboGrafx-16, the market was already bracing for the true 16-bit era. But NEC's bold mix of hue cards and CD-ROMs left a lasting mark. Today, collectors chase original hue cards, CD add-ons, and rare imports, a testament to a console that bridged the gap between 8-bit roots and the multimedia future. In 1988, Japanese gamers encountered a console that looked and sounded like it belonged in the arcade, not the living room. The Sega Mega Drive, known as the Genesis in North America, arrived with a promise: true 16-bit power driven by the Motorola 68000 CPU. This was not just a step up, it was a leap. With a clock speed of 7.6 MHz, the 68000 CPU let the Genesis handle bigger, faster moving sprites, more complex backgrounds, and action that matched what players saw at the local arcade. For the first time, home consoles could run games that did not feel like watered-down versions of their coin-operated counterparts. Sega's early lineup made that point clear. Altered Beast, bundled with many Genesis units, greeted players with digitized voices and massive shape-shifting heroes, effects that felt impossible on older machines. Golden Axe brought fast scrolling, multi-layered worlds, and cooperative play, echoing the energy of Sega's own arcade cabinets. These games were not just ports, they were proof that the Genesis could deliver the real thing, powered by hardware developers new from the arcade scene. Sound was another revelation. The Genesis's Yamaha YM2612 FM synthesizer chip produced music and effects that went far beyond the simple bleeps of the past. Rock-inspired soundtracks, rich percussion, and distinctive voices gave games a presence that filled the room. It was a console meant to impress, from the angular jet black shell to the bold 16-bit badge stamped across the top. The cartridge slot, a top loader, made every new game feel like a high-performance upgrade. Sega's marketing played to this confidence. The tagline, "Welcome to the next level," became the battle cry in 1989, as the Genesis launched in the US and set its sights on Nintendo's dominance. By the end of the decade, over 35 million units had shipped worldwide, and the stage was set for a new era of rivalry and innovation. Today, early Genesis models, original launch games, and hardware variants are highly sought by collectors, symbols of the moment when home gaming caught up to the arcades and the 16-bit era truly began. Across all 11 consoles, one pattern emerges. Real innovation comes from risk, whether in hardware, design, or reviving a collapsed industry. Each system reflects a moment when technology, culture, and bold ideas collided, shaping how we play even now. The legacy is not just nostalgia, it is the blueprint for every controller, click, and cartridge snap that still echoes today. Which era-defining console left its mark on you? Let us know below.